Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever wondered how we keep truly profound ancient ideas alive in our crazy, fast-paced world? It's a huge challenge, right? And it connects two worlds you would never ever expect to see in the same sentence. So here's a bit of a riddle for you. What on earth could a brilliant philosopher monk from the 8th century have in common with a university curriculum review happening today? I know, it sounds like two totally different universes. But as we're about to see, they are wrestling with the exact same fundamental problem. All right, first up, let's talk about this universal challenge. How do you stop timeless, powerful ideas from just becoming dated? How do you make sure they're not just some dusty relic in a museum, but actual living knowledge that can speak to a new generation? To make this totally concrete, we're going to dive right into a real curriculum review for a Bachelor of Buddhist Studies program. This is where the rubber meets the road. We get to see a faculty asking themselves some really tough questions like, how do we best teach this incredibly complex subject right here, right now?
And what did they find? Well, the challenges are probably going to sound pretty familiar to anyone in education. First off, some of the course material was just plain outdated. They also realized they needed more bilingual resources because, these are complex ancient texts. They also found some of the content was a bit too generic, not really tailored to this specific subject. And at the end of the day, it all boiled down to one thing. They needed to improve student competency. These are the real on-the-ground hurdles of teaching ancient wisdom.
Okay, so let's hit pause on the modern university for a minute. We're going to travel back in time to meet the philosopher at the absolute heart of this curriculum. This is where we get into the what, the actual ideas they're trying so hard to teach. Our guide for this is a man named Shantaraksita. He was this absolute giant of 8th century Indian philosophy. And he wasn't just a brilliant thinker, he was a master teacher, famous for his insane ability to break down incredibly subtle ideas with crystal clear logic. Now, at the core of his entire system is this framework called the two truths. On one hand, you have ultimate truth, the way things really are, which he argues is empty of any fixed, permanent, independent self. Then, on the other hand, you have conventional truth. That's the world we live in, the one that seems real, with cause and effect, where a chair is a chair. This isn't a contradiction. It's his brilliant way of avoiding extremes, saying things don't absolutely permanently exist, but they don't not exist either. So how in the world did Shantaraksita prove his point about this ultimate truth? He used this beautifully elegant piece of logic that honestly anyone can follow, and it is a total game changer. He called it the neither one nor many argument. The core idea is that for anything to be truly inherently real, it would have to exist in one of two ways, either as a single indivisible unit or as a collection of many of those single units. And Shantaraksita's big reveal is that absolutely nothing fits either description. Here's how the logic plays out. First, he asks, can anything be a truly single thing? And his answer is no, because everything always has parts. A table has legs and a top. Even an atom has subatomic particles, so nothing is truly one. Then he asks, okay, well, can it be a collection of many things? And again, the answer is no, because the whole idea of many depends on having those single units to add up, and we just proved those don't exist. So the mind-bending conclusion? Things are neither one nor many. Let's use a modern example. Think about a car. Is there some single, indivisible carness somewhere? Of course not. It's an assembly of parts, wheels, an engine, doors. But is it just a random pile of many parts? No, the word car only makes sense because of how those parts function together. The car is real on a conventional level, but you can't pin down some ultimate essential thing called car. It's neither one nor many. And here is how Shantaraksita himself put it so beautifully. He says things are like a reflection. I mean, think about that. A reflection in a mirror seems totally real, right? It functions as an image, but it has no actual substance of its own. It's the perfect metaphor for his entire view of reality. But here's the thing. Shantaraksita wasn't just trying to win philosophical debates. He was doing something much more important. He was creating a pathway for the mind, a carefully designed curriculum for his own students. What's so fascinating is his teaching method. He didn't just dump his final conclusion on you. He actually built a ladder to get you there. First, as step one, he'd guide a student through what's called the mind-only view. The whole point there is to see that our perception of external things isn't separate from our own consciousness. Okay, that's step one. Then, once you've got that, he introduces step two. You apply that same exact logic to the mind itself, and you realize that even consciousness doesn't have a fixed, inherent nature. So what you're seeing here isn't just a philosophical debate. It's a brilliant teaching strategy. He literally used one entire school of thought as a stepping stone to a more subtle one. He knew you can't just leap to the most complex idea. You have to build a scaffold, a ladder for the mind to climb, step by step. And this brings us right back to where we started, full circle, back to that university classroom and that curriculum review. Now we can finally see how it all connects. After exploring just how deep and subtle Shantaraksita's ideas are, his logic, his two truths, his teaching ladder, we can really appreciate the challenge that university is facing. Teaching this stuff isn't about memorizing facts. It's about guiding students up that very same intellectual and contemplative ladder. And that is exactly why the solutions they came up with are so important. They're the modern version of what Shantaraksita was doing 1,200 years ago, updating readings to get closer to the source, improving clarity, adding bilingual materials. All of that is about making the path clearer for the student. It's about building a better ladder. So the connection between the 8th century monk and the modern university, it's this timeless challenge. It doesn't matter if you're an Indian master in a monastery or a professor in a university. The job is exactly the same. How do you pass on profound wisdom in a way that's accessible, but without dumbing it down? How do you build a ladder that can actually get someone to the top? And this leaves all of us with a question that goes way beyond any single curriculum. In your own field, in your own life, what are the essential, complex ideas that you feel responsible for passing on? And maybe more importantly, how are you going to build the ladder to make sure they're understood?